Hello folks, this is BestInSlot and welcome back to a long overdue mod spotlight series for Jurassic World Evolution 2. We've got 7 fantastic mods to check out today, including the bio-accurate BLOOP that you're looking at right now. This was a collab between Viral Cyclops and Goji Sensor, who you may well know for their fantastic YouTube channel. And there is the BLOOP in all of its glory, looking stupendous. I gotta explain what this is, but before we do that, very quick disclaimer about mods. Mods can cause problems with your games, particularly your save files if you're messing around with it. It looks like Evolution 2 is not going to update anymore, so you're in a pretty good time now to get modding your game. But if it does cause problems, it's not my fault, it's not the mod maker's fault, and it's not Frontier's fault. What is the BLOOP, you may ask, for those of you who are unaware? Well, to find out, we must journey back to the South Pacific and the 1990s. Now, back in the 1990s, the mid-1990s, the NOAA, that's the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration, they recorded a ultra-low frequency sound amongst the depths. One that for years, nearly decades, stumped scientists, as they believed that this sound, this bloop noise, must have come from a large, undiscovered marine mammal. That bloop was thusly rendered as a cryptid by the cryptid community and everyone who loves cryptids, and thus the bloop was born. Now, Goji Sensor, who does their fantastic YouTube channel, as I say, had designed a biologically accurate version of that cryptid creature for a video, and then they've collabed with Viral Cyclops to bring it into the game. Now, as it happens, in 2012, the NOAA resolved that the noise was actually caused by what's known as a cryosism, which is a seismic event caused by the sudden cracking of ice. So, unfortunately, the bloop is not real, but the bloop lives large in our hearts, and so credit to Goji Sensor for designing it in the first place, and then Viral Cyclops, who's done a stupendous job of modelling this thing. It's humongous, first of all. You may have seen there's a Omeisaurus swimming around in the same habitat, which is quite a lot smaller by comparison. I'm just going to swap to my Xbox controller for a bit of smoothness here. Quite a bit smaller by comparison. A really cool job bringing it to life, bringing Goji Sensor's design to life in a 3D model there. You can see it's got lots of lovely details. We've got this big flat, oh, look at it there. Beautiful stuff, lovely patterning detail going along there as well. Hello. Those big razor sharp teeth. We've got these kind of sort of tendrils popping out the side. Kind of probably something for, I haven't seen the video, I must admit, but I assume this is like a sensitivity kind of thing to pick up waves in the water, to pick up, you know, it's kind of like a detection sort of thing. Big chunky body, and then we've got that sort of whale-esque tail there at the back as well for locomotion. Big front flippers as well. A very, very cool creature, a very unique addition to your parks, and one step closer to finally being able to make a cryptid park in Evolution 2. We've only got one, but it's the first step. There are some strange creatures, as we've just seen, lurking in the depths of the waves, but there are stranger still lurking on the land. Let's hop into this little habitat over here, and there we can see our second mod of the day. So this is a leucistic BARYONYX by Scary Face now, and it's of course a new BARYONYX cosmetic based on the BARYONYX in Season 2 of Jurassic World Chaos Theory. I think the show's been out for long enough that this doesn't really count as a spoiler anymore. I'm sure people have seen it or seen mentions of it, and it's not really a plot spoiler anyway. But I won't talk about how this thing comes to be or why it exists. How do I pause when using my controller? I've got no idea. I won't talk about any of that, but suffice to say there is a leucistic BARYONYX in Season 2 of Chaos Theory, and more than that, it doesn't have any eyes. This thing is not just blind, it quite literally does not have any eyeballs on either side. Obviously there's not too much to the mod, it is just a sort of white toned BARYONYX they've done, but they've done a really good job of making it like a skin that matches the in-show version, and removing the eyes is a really interesting little detail, and it's very easy to pretend this thing is, ignore the crowd at the top, it's very easy to pretend this thing would be stalking through some dark tunnels, hunting down the gang and stuff like that. It's really well done. I was going to say it's time for some more normal additions, but Yosoba's decided that's not going to be the case. This is kind of adorable. I don't know where the music is, it's very disconcerting. But back into our sort of regularly scheduled creatures. This is a Pyrenean ibex from, as I say, Yosoba. Or Jocelyn, I still don't know. We've got a cavalcade of strange additions today, and this is one of them. This is actually a now... I'm going to go into a slightly more standard coloured one, like this one over here. I think this has been pulled from Planet Zoo, from one of the babies. Anyways, this is a now extinct ibex, so it is evolution 2 appropriate from southwestern Europe. Now, they died out not that long ago, 24 years, bloody Nora, in 2000. I think the last one died in... Well, it looks really good. That was really good. I'm really surprised. They died back in... the last one died in January 2000. However, a few years later, one was born again in Spain, thanks to genetic cloning techniques. A bit of a miracle. The only species, really, to have ever been brought back from extinction still to this day. And it happened 20 years ago. 21 years ago. That said, the one that was brought back unfortunately died 3 minutes later from issues with its lungs, I believe it was, yeah, due to a lung defect. It just couldn't breathe properly, etc., etc. So now, not only is the Pyrenean ibex the only animal to have been brought back from extinction, but it is also the only animal to have gone extinct twice, which is an honour, I think. It's a very strange addition to our parks. I don't really know what else to add beyond that. It is sort of appropriate if you're going for a mammalian-themed park, which you can absolutely do. There's a ton of brilliant mammal mods out there, or mammal-adjacent mods. We're going to see another one in just a moment. You could definitely include the ibex. Maybe you could use it as like a live feeder, although it's worth keeping in mind that modded animals sometimes have some issues when it comes to animations and stuff like that. Either way, it's been brought over to the game really well. I'm surprised by how well it's, it fits onto the rigs and how well it animates. Looks really good. We're getting closer to being able to pretend Evolution 2 is just Planet Zoo, and vice versa, honestly. Well, they're a little bit adorable. So, another Yosoba mod here. This is Thrinaxodon. I should say, not quite mammal, but mammal sort of adjacent. Very, very cute. More furry goodness with Thrinaxodon. An extinct Cynodon, I should say, from the early Triassic, managed to survive the huge Permian Triassic extinction event, perhaps because of its ability to burrow underground. I'm just going to grab one and move it somewhere we'll be able to actually bloody see it. There you go. You see it's got this lovely little detail of like whiskers here popping out of the snout, and you can see just light sort of fur covering along its entire body. Like a lot of our Jurassic animals, we've got that sort of quasi-mammal, quasi-reptilian mix and match sort of vibe going on. As evolution is just figuring things out. So as I say, it could burrow underground. Now, there's actually a really interesting fossil specimen for this animal, for Thrinaxodon, which in one of their burrows, there was a heavily injured broomy stega that was discovered. And a broomy stega is a semi-aquatic amphibious sort of creature. Now, it had been attacked, it had been injured, it had perforations in its skull, it had bite marks in its skull. But given how the bite marks were spaced out and the shape and stuff, it seems they weren't caused by Thrinaxodon. So, it was living in a Thrinaxodon burrow, but it hadn't been like dragged there as an injured meal or something like that. Because Thrinaxodon was near enough an apex carnivore, honestly. This thing was one of the very few carnivores to actually exist at the time. Now, there is a chance that what happened was that the broomy stega went and lived there after maybe Thrinaxodon had abandoned the burrow or had moved in at a later time when Thrinaxodon had already died. But it could be an example of interspecies sheltering. It does happen in reality, and there are examples of it through the fossil record, but they are very few and far between. But it'd be pretty cool if Thrinaxodon, seeing this injured animal, was like, well, I'm not hungry, I'm not in the mood. You can hang out, you know. I see the legs there just about tucked under the body, sort of one of those newly developing facets for animals at the time. And yeah, just generally speaking, a really interesting, unique animal. More Triassic creatures always appreciated against... Oh, and again, really well rigged. It just works, you know. The mouth is really unique amongst the animals in the game. And this just feels like it blends in brilliantly. Good stuff. This very cool, very, very cool new theropod is Thanatotheristus from JoJo Chess. This is a Tyrannosaurid from the late Cretaceous of Laramidia. Now, Laramidia is the western part of North America that split from Appalachia back in the day. Thanatotheristus has potentially one, if I was still like a 13-year-old emo kid instead of a much older emo kid, it would have one of the coolest names out there. So I think we're about to see this. Very cool. Because Thanatotheristus means Reaper of Death, or Death Harvester in Greek. A lot of people hear it and think of Thanos, but Thanos, of course, was derived from Thanatos, who, Death Harvester in Greek. Closely related to Daspletosaurus, but a little bit smaller, this Canadian dinosaur actually led to the creation of a new clade within Tyrannosauridae, the Daspletosaurinae, which contains Thanatotheristus and the two species of Daspletosaurus, so very closely related. This one's got a little cheeky extra. Let me just double check that. If we swap to nighttime, yeah, I can't remember why, but it looks really cool. They've given it glowing eyes, as you can see, just because it's the Reaper of Death. It feels appropriate. And we're going to turn the light on. And what we can do then is pretend that what we're seeing is kind of the if you kind of get like that, if you get it sort of half in light, half in darkness, you can kind of pretend that what you're doing is catching. That looks really cool. It's kind of like, when you photograph animals at nighttime, or you see like an animal, like a nocturnal animal, you talk badgers and foxes and stuff like that, and you just catch a glimmer of their eye gleaming in whatever light source is knocking around. It's the same kind of deal. Obviously it fades out a little bit when you just shoot them in the eye like that with the light, but a very, very cool little detail. Would benefit a lot from that Cryogenic mod to make nighttime even darker. Again, another fantastic mod for a horror-themed park. We've got several of them today that would be super appropriate for such a thing. And yeah, other than that, it's just a really cool-looking theropod. There's something about the design on the head, that kind of area around the eye in particular, which it's got like a slight plasticky sort of texture to it, but it looks really cool. It's a nice little detail. A nice sort of patterning until you get to the tail. These big, thick stripes down there. These lighter ones down the body, down the torso, and down the leg. As you can see, this one's the unpatterned one, which I really like as well, actually. Our penultimate new species is Omeisaurus from from Glitch. Really bad time, hiccups. Body, stop it. Hiccups, be gone. A ceratopsian from the later Cretaceous of northwest Montana, the bison lizard from the Blackfeet Indian Ainu, Inu? I don't know. Ini. It was a name for the American bison. I feel like this is one of the most popular ceratopsids, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I feel like I've started saying those words and the words I've said before. I think it's a really popular ceratopsid, probably because of its unique features. This horn, can you all stop standing in the shadow? Yeah, looks really good, plays out really well. But yeah, really popular, probably because of this horn more than anything else. This very unique forward curved horn is obviously quite unique amongst ceratopsids. These gigantic ones at the top of the frill as well give it a very unique sort of skull structure. It's been done really well here by Glitch as per usual. And yeah, just a good looking ceratopsid. I love these little details here on the crest, in particular these bright spots here. Really cool for, the kind of thing they'd very much use for breeding displays and stuff like that. Look how bright and blue my head is. Don't you want to have sex with me? Is the general message. But the body itself has been textured really nicely. This really subtle sort of drip drab sort of pattern looks pretty bloody cool, and really like how the head has been modelled in general. That big forward curved horn, very noticeable and standing out there. Omeisaurus would have lived with, amongst others, my favourite dinosaur, Maiasaura, and also the likes of Euoplocephalus and the earlier mentioned Daspletosaurus. Another beautiful looking ceratopsid to add to your parks. One more dinosaur to go. that was fancy. So, this beautiful sauropod is Omeisaurus by Toripu Studios. Toripu? A sauropod from the Middle Jurassic of China contains 8 species, which is a little bonkers. I very rarely see so many species from an individual genus. Big variety in size as well, so I'm assuming this is meant to be one of the biggest ones. Thanatotheristus could measure up to nearly 70 feet long, quite a sizable sauropod. Not up there with the biggest, but a decent size. Whereas some, including the type species like I don't know how you do, Junghh, Jungsiensis, significantly smaller at up to about 46 feet in length. So, you know, 2/3 of the size, near enough on the dot. One of the biggest Omeisaurus discoveries was actually entirely accidental, as a huge fossil bed of at least 13 specimens, possibly up to 16 specimens, was discovered by a construction crew building the Rujiaba Dam in the mid-1970s. Which is cool, but you've got to imagine it slowed things down rather dramatically. I'm trying to build a dam here, and suddenly there's 16 gigantic sauropod specimens lying around, and obviously you have to get people involved and get them all removed safely, and that's going to take some time, yada yada yada. This is actually the unique skin, so there are regular skins, you know, mix and match patterns as per usual, but this is the special midnight skin, which is absolutely beautiful and really novel sort of stuff. Not a sort of skin we see very often, this sort of patterning and coloration, really special sort of stuff that really does look like a night sort of sky. It looks like galaxies and the swirls of the cosmos coming together. It's really cool. Anyways, a really nicely modelled new sauropod. Let's check out the head. That tends to be where the information is on the sauropod. You can see those gigantic teeth there, perfect for harvesting all the foliage and crunching it down. I've got that slightly sort of Camarasaurus-esque sort of head shape, I'd say, with the pulled back nasal ridge and stuff like that, and that old man look from our Apatosaurus. And then down here at the body, we've got a sort of medium left tail. It's not like a big long whip-like tail. It's more of a, you know, Brachiosaurus sort of size or shaped sauropod. Quite skinny as sauropods go as well. You can see here the body is quite slim, and the front legs in particular as well, also quite slim compared to a lot of the sauropods we see rendered. It's got a very unique body shape. It feels a little misshapen in some interesting ways, but quite a thick neck as well. A bizarre looking creature with some beautiful patterning, beautiful coloration, and really well modelled head display as well. Head display, i.e. the skull. Oh, I know. There you go. I love this little shed, a little lodge, I guess, whatever you want to call it. It just makes for really cool screenshots. Anyways, from me and all of our new creatures, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks very soon. Throw me a like if you enjoyed the video. Cheers much as always. Bye-bye.